Well, we've been following the breaking news. The officer at the center of the Eric Garner chokehold case has been fired from the NYPD. Commissioner James O'Neill says it was a difficult decision, but the chokehold used crossed the line. And joining us now to discuss all of this, we have Dr. Henry Smart III. He is an assistant professor at John Jay College of Criminal Justice and has a PhD in public administration and public affairs. Now, Professor Smart, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to your insight. First off, just your reaction to that decision.
I think it was the right decision. NYPD has done some great work here in the current years to implement community policing. One incident like this can undo that work. So the progress that they've made, I think this complements that. So yeah, now it took some time, but I do think it is what should have happened maybe 2, maybe 3 years ago.
So you were surprised that this decision took so long, took 5 years?
I think so. If you look at the political climate in NYPD and other larger cities that have sometimes an overactive union, you sometimes get roadblocks that you wouldn't necessarily see in a mid-sized city or a city that doesn't have an overactive union. So there's a political climate here that probably stalled some of the progress that should have taken place some time ago.
Some of that decision-making. Now, Commissioner O'Neill said that this was a day of reckoning, but could it also be considered a day of reconciliation? What needs to happen next?
It could. I would say those officers that are in the community now have that conversation with folks that they've been bonding and building these relationships with over the past several months, and have an earnest dialogue. Ask citizens, what do they think about the decision? And just let folks sort of get it off their chest, but also maybe relay a message that may get back to their department as to how folks can move forward together.
Now, we can't know exactly in this moment what they're thinking, but how do you expect the reaction of those officers to be right now? Do they feel support, frustration? I will liken it to often there's an element of positive energy and negative energy in every organization. And I would say most public organizations are filled with folks who have good intentions, right? And now secretively, I think they're saying, yes, this will help our department. So police officers are saying, yes, this will help our department. Okay. But there's a critique. You want to make sure that your colleagues are taking care of you and doing the right thing when they're not around you. So I think secretly, they're probably saying that was a good decision. Publicly, as a unit, when they're talking to other officers, maybe not so much. The dialogue might look different. Okay, interesting. And how do you think that this will impact their jobs? Will it impact or influence their behavior now going forward? So
to me, this is an act that builds trust, right, with the community. Often we've seen scenarios in the past, Sean Bell, the list is too long for this particular region. But I think it will help folks say, okay, maybe officers won't overreact, right? We had this one case because now there's an actual punishment when you overreact. I teach my students when we're covering policy analysis that principle of proportionality. If we think about the just basic narrative of this story, loose cigarettes, right? There's a resistance, right? But that resistance, I can actually rationalize why he was resisting because the proportionality was not in effect in that moment. So what I hope when I relay that to our students at John Jay is that they remember that. Am I overreacting? And I always question their judgment, even when they're making the decision, when they're in that hot moment. And it's a difficult job, right? It's a difficult thing to do. Biases can creep in. We have to yet continually press that button and remind folks that they have to slow down.
Well, and we've been speaking about the officers, but what about the Garner family? Can this decision now be considered justice for them?
Might I commend his mother and the rest of his family members and his daughter who has passed for their fight and their energy. Sometimes folks run out of exhaust and they get tired, right? So I think they probably will celebrate, but it's hard to celebrate a victory over a loss of a family member. Yes. So it's a different type of celebration, right? Maybe it'll give them fuel to push forward with a separate case. which I think they will move forward with. It'll be interesting to see what they have to say later today.
Right, and we will be hearing from the Garner family at some point this afternoon. So to your point, yes, we'll all be waiting and watching to see their reaction. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Smart, for all of your insight. Thanks for joining us. Well, some relief may be on the way for NJ Transit commuters, but first we have continuing coverage on this story on CBSNNewYork.com.